They humiliated the American girl in the auto shop until she did what even the best mechanics couldn't. Emily Parker swallowed her tears once again as the laughter echoed through the shop. At 27, she was the only woman working at Progress Auto Repair, located in the industrial zone of Oakland, and every day she faced the snide remarks from her co-workers. It was when the most expensive Cadillac the shop had ever received arrived, with a problem none of the experienced mechanics could solve, that her life took a completely different turn. "Emily, don't even get near that car," said Richard, the head mechanic, pushing her away from the luxury vehicle. "This engine is worth more than your entire house." She lowered her head, as she always did when humiliated in front of others. Working at that shop for 3 years had been a constant nightmare. From the very first day when she arrived with her automotive mechanics technical diploma, the men made sure to let her know she wasn't welcome. The owner of the shop, Thomas Wilson, a 60-year-old man who had inherited the business from his father, watched the commotion around the Cadillac with concern. The car belonged to a very influential businessman in the area, Anthony Richardson, owner of a chain of dealerships. 3 days, Thomas murmured, running a hand through his graying hair. 3 days and none of you could figure out what's wrong with this engine? Richard, a burly 42-year-old, wiped his grease-stained hands on his overalls. He had worked at the shop for over 20 years and considered himself the best mechanic in town. "Boss, this problem is more complicated than it looks. We've checked everything: injection system, ignition, fuel pump. Everything's working perfectly, but the car won't move." "Anthony Richardson will be here in 2 hours," Thomas said, nervously checking his watch. "If we don't fix this today, we'll lose the shop's biggest client." Mark and Frank, the other 2 mechanics, exchanged worried glances. They knew the shop relied heavily on the luxury cars Anthony brought in for maintenance. Losing this client would mean firing at least 2 employees. Emily was organizing tools in her corner when she overheard the conversation. Her heart raced. She had studied V12 engines like that one exhaustively during her technical course. She knew every component, every system, every possible failure. "What if it's an issue with the electronic control module?" she murmured to herself, but loud enough for Richard to hear. "What did you say?" he snapped, turning angrily. "You think you know more than us?" "I just thought—" "You don't think anything," Richard shouted. "Get back to your tools and stop giving opinions where you weren't asked." The other mechanics laughed. It was always like this. Emily had lost count of how many times her suggestions were ignored, only for one of the men to reach the same conclusion hours later and take all the credit. Margaret, the shop's secretary, watched everything from her desk in the attached office. She was a 55-year-old woman who had worked there for 15 years and had seen plenty of injustices happen to Emily. The phone rang. It was Anthony Richardson. "Thomas, I need my car ready today. I have an important meeting tomorrow morning in New York," the businessman's firm voice said on the other end. "Of course, Anthony, it's almost fixed," Thomas lied, looking desperately at the mechanics. When he hung up, silence fell over the shop. Everyone knew they were in trouble. "Let's try one more time," Richard said, stepping back toward the engine. "Frank, check the electrical system again. Mark, take another look at the sensors." Emily watched from a distance, her hands trembling with anxiety. She was sure she knew what the problem was, but she also knew she'd be ignored if she tried to speak up again. Margaret approached her discreetly. "Emily, do you really think you know what it is?" "I have an idea, Margaret, but you know how they are." "What if I talk to Thomas?" "No, forget it. I don't want any more trouble." But Margaret didn't give up. She knew Emily's talent and understood the young mechanic was far more capable than the men would admit. In the 3 years they'd worked together, she'd seen Emily solve complex problems that took others days to figure out. 2 hours passed. The sound of tools echoed through the shop, but the Cadillac remained motionless. Richard was getting nervous, sweating as he took apart pieces without really knowing what he was looking for. Then Anthony Richardson arrived. He was an imposing man, 53 years old, wearing an expensive suit and carrying a leather briefcase. His blue eyes assessed the situation immediately. "Thomas, how's my car?" "Anthony, Still working on some final adjustments. Final adjustments? Anthony glanced at the open engine and scattered parts. This doesn't look like final adjustments. It looks like you don't know what you're doing. Thomas swallowed hard. He could feel sweat trickling down his back. Give me a few more hours, please. A few hours? Anthony's voice hardened. Thomas, I trusted you with my $500,000 car. If you can't fix it, I'll take it to the dealership in the city. Silence hung heavy in the air. Everyone knew what that meant. If Anthony left unsatisfied, he'd spread the word that the shop was incompetent. Within months, they'd be bankrupt. That's when Emily made the bravest decision of her life. "Excuse me," she said, stepping toward the men. They all turned, surprised. Richard glared at her. "Emily, go back to your place. I'd like to take a look at the engine," she said, speaking directly to Anthony. "You?" Anthony looked her up and down. "You're a mechanic?" "Yes, sir. I have a degree in automotive mechanics and specialize in high-performance engines." Richard let out a sarcastic laugh. "Boss, don't let her near your car. She'll mess something up." But something in Emily's determined gaze caught Anthony's attention. He'd spent his whole life in the automotive industry and knew technical expertise when he saw it. What kind of specialization? "Embedded electronic systems and fault diagnosis in V12 engine ECUs, sir." Thomas nearly choked. He had no idea Emily had that kind of specialized knowledge. "And what's your theory about my car's problem?" Emily took a deep breath. It was now or never. "Based on the engine noise and the symptoms I observed, I believe it's a failure in the transmission control module. Specifically, the communication between the main ECU and the automated shifting system. The engine is running perfectly, but it can't transfer power to the wheels." The silence was absolute. Even Richard stopped laughing. Anthony looked at Thomas, then at the mechanics, and finally at Emily. "Interesting. And how would you fix it?" "First, I'd run a communication test between the modules using a specific scanner. If my suspicion is confirmed, we'd need to update the transmission module's software." 5 minutes, Anthony said suddenly. "I'll give you 5 minutes to prove you're right." Thomas was panicking. Letting the only woman in the shop touch the most expensive car they'd ever worked on seemed insane. "Anthony, I don't know if this is a good idea. Thomas, your experienced mechanics have had 3 days. Now she has 5 minutes." As 5. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Emily walked to the car with trembling legs. All eyes were fixed on her. Richard, Mark, and Frank watched her with a mix of curiosity and disbelief. She opened her toolbox and grabbed a scanner she had bought with her savings. It was an expensive piece of equipment, one none of the other mechanics owned. "Where did you get that?" Mark asked, impressed. "I bought it with my first paycheck," Emily replied, connecting the device to the car's system. She worked in silence, her fingers dancing over the controls with precision. Numbers and codes appeared on the screen, confirming her suspicions. "Here it is," she said, turning the screen so everyone could see. "Communication error between modules 7F2 and 8A4. Exactly what I thought." Anthony stepped closer to look at the screen. He knew enough about mechanics to realize Emily was right. "Now what?" "Now I need to access the central system to reprogram it. It'll take about 15 minutes. "Do it," Anthony said. Richard couldn't believe what he was seeing. The girl he humiliated every day had identified a problem he didn't even know existed. Emily worked intently, her fingers typing complex codes into the computer connected to the car. She had studied this procedure during a specialization course she took on Saturdays, paying for it out of her own pocket. 15 minutes later, she started the engine. It purred perfectly, and when she pressed the accelerator, the car responded immediately. "Done," she said, stepping out of the vehicle. "The problem's fixed." Anthony got in the car and took it for a spin around the shop. Everything worked flawlessly. "Impressive," he said, stepping out with a smile. "In 3 years of bringing cars here, I've never seen such a precise and fast diagnosis." Thomas Wilson didn't know what to say. He had underestimated Emily all these years. "What's your name?" Anthony asked. "Emily Parker, sir." "Emily, you just saved my meeting tomorrow, and probably saved this shop too." He turned to Thomas. "I want her to be responsible for all my cars from now on." "Of course, Anthony. No problem." After Anthony left, the atmosphere in the shop grew tense. The mechanics looked at Emily with a mix of respect and resentment. "How did you know how to do that?" Frank asked, genuinely curious. "I study. Every day after work, I read technical manuals and take online courses." "And why didn't you ever say you had this knowledge?" Thomas asked. "I tried many times, but you never listened." An awkward silence filled the room. Everyone knew it was true. Richard walked away without a word. He was angry, but also confused. For 20 years, he had considered himself the best mechanic in the area. Watching a 27-year-old solve in 15 minutes a problem he couldn't fix in 3 days was a blow to his ego. In the following days, the news spread. Anthony Richardson told other business owners about the skilled mechanic at Progress Auto Repair. More luxury cars started arriving, all specifically requesting Emily's services. Thomas was happy with the increased revenue, but noticed the growing tension among the employees. Richard especially became increasingly hostile toward Emily. "This can't go on like this," he said to Mark and Frank during lunch. "A girl can't be better than us." "But she fixed the problem, Richard," Mark said. "Maybe we should learn from her." "Learn from her?" Richard turned red with anger. "I've been working with engines since before she was born." "And yet she knew how to do what you couldn't," Frank shot back. The argument was interrupted when another luxury car arrived. It was an imported BMW, brought by a new client who had heard about the shop through Anthony Richardson. "I want to speak with Emily," the client said as soon as he walked in. Thomas Wilson smiled and called the young mechanic. Emily analyzed the problem and once again demonstrated technical knowledge that impressed everyone. Richard watched from a distance, his anger growing with every compliment Emily received. He began plotting a way to discredit her. That night, after everyone had left, Richard returned to the shop. He tampered with Emily's tools, loosened some bolts, and hid important parts. His plan was to make her mess up the next day. On Monday morning, Emily arrived early, as she always did. She loved the quiet of the shop before the other employees arrived. It was her moment of peace, mentally preparing for another workday. When she opened her toolbox, she immediately noticed something was off. Her wrenches were out of place, and some parts she had set aside were missing. "Strange," she murmured to herself. She rearranged everything and got to work on the first car of the day, a Lexus ES with steering issues. When she tried to use her 14mm wrench, she noticed it was loose. She nearly dropped a bolt into the engine. "How odd," she said, inspecting the tool. "This wrench was fine yesterday. All day, small problems kept happening. Tools that didn't work right, parts that mysteriously vanished, bolts that came loose on their own." Richard watched it all with a faint smile, waiting for Emily to make a serious mistake in front of an important client. But Emily was careful. She checked every tool before using it and double-checked her work. Richard's little sabotages only made her more alert. By the end of the week, she started suspecting someone was messing with her things. She decided to stay late to see if anyone would return to the shop. On Friday at 8 in the evening, she hid in the bathroom when she heard the door open. Through the crack, she saw Richard walk in and head straight for her workbench. She quietly turned on her phone's camera and recorded everything. Richard tampering with her tools, hiding parts, loosening bolts. "Son of a gun," she muttered, capturing every move. Saturday morning, she arrived at the shop with a decision made. She wouldn't stay silent about the humiliation anymore. Richard showed up half an hour later, greeting her with a fake smile. "Good morning, Emily. How are your tools today?" "They're great, Richard. Thanks for asking." He was thrown off by her calm response, but said nothing. Around 10, a client arrived with a Ferrari for routine maintenance, a car worth over $2 million. "I want Emily to handle my car," the client said, a young businessman referred by Anthony Richardson. Richard couldn't hide his irritation, but Thomas Wilson insisted Emily take care of it. As she worked on the Ferrari, Richard approached. "Be careful not to screw up," he muttered. This car's worth more than your whole life. Relax, Richard. I know what I'm doing. You think you do, but just wait till you make a big mistake. Then I'll be here to remind you a woman's place isn't tinkering with engines. Emily stopped what she was doing and stared at him. Richard, you know what? I know it was you messing with my tools all week. What are you talking about? I have it all on video. Richard's face turned pale. You recorded me? I sure did. And you know what? I'm showing it to Thomas Wilson on Monday. You won't do that. Oh, I will. I'm tired of being humiliated by you. I'm tired of pretending I don't see your dirty tricks. Richard grew nervous. He knew if Thomas saw the recording, he'd be fired on the spot. Listen here, girl. You don't know who you're messing with. Oh, I do. I'm dealing with an insecure man who's afraid of being outdone by a woman. The argument was interrupted when the Ferrari owner approached. Is everything all right here? Yes, sir, Emily replied with a professional smile. Your car is almost ready. The customer eyed Richard suspiciously, who walked away grumbling. 2 hours later, the Ferrari was ready. The customer was impressed with the quality of the work and left Emily a generous tip. Great job, said Thomas Wilson, who had been watching everything. You keep surpassing yourself every day. Thank you, Thomas. Can I speak with you privately? They went to the office, away from the other mechanic's ears. Emily, I've noticed tension between you and Richard. Is something going on? Thomas, can I be blunt with you? Of course. Richard's sabotaging my work. He messes with my tools, hides parts, and does everything to undermine me. Are you sure about this? I have proof. She showed him the video she had recorded. Thomas watched in silence, his expression growing more serious. My God, Emily, I had no idea this was happening. He does it because he can't stand that a woman is a better mechanic than him. And you are better than him. That's becoming clearer every day. Thomas ran a hand through his hair, thoughtful. What do you want me to do? I just want to work in peace. I don't want him fired, but I want him to stop sabotaging me. I'll talk to him on Monday. But the weekend held a surprise that would change everything. On Sunday, Emily got a call from Margaret. Emily, are you home? I am. Why? I need to tell you something important. It's about Richard. What about Richard? He's not just any mechanic. He's Thomas's cousin. Thomas gave him the job 20 years ago, even though he wasn't qualified. Emily fell silent, processing the information. How do you know this? Because I handle payroll, and because I overheard them talking the other day. Thomas is worried but afraid to confront his cousin. That explains a lot. Emily, be careful. Richard has more influence at the shop than it seems. On Monday, Emily arrived at work with a whole new perspective. Now she understood why Richard had so much freedom to do as he pleased. Thomas called Richard in for a private talk, but didn't show the video. He just asked him to treat Emily with more respect. Cousin, you know I respect everyone here, Richard lied. I'm just asking you to give her a chance. She's a good professional. Of course, Thomas, don't worry. But instead of improving, things got worse. Richard became subtler in his sabotage, but he didn't stop. A week later, a case arrived at the shop that would change everything. It was a rainy Thursday when a desperate man rushed in, carrying a child of about 5 in his arms. Please, can someone help me? He shouted. My car broke down on the road and my daughter is sick. The child was pale and struggling to breathe. The nearest hospital is 12 miles from here, said the man who introduced himself as Charles Edward. I need my car running now. Thomas looked at Richard. This is an emergency. Can you take a quick look? Richard approached the car, an old Ford Focus. He tried to start the engine, but nothing happened. It'll take a while to figure out the problem, he said. Better call a tow truck. A tow truck will take an hour to get here, said Charles Edward, growing more desperate. My daughter can't wait that long. Emily Parker watched the scene and made a decision. Let me take a look, she said, stepping closer to the car. Emily, this isn't a joke, Richard said. The child's life could be at risk. That's exactly why I want to help. She popped the hood and began inspecting the engine. It was an old model, very different from the luxury cars she'd been working on lately. Fuel pump issue, she said after a few minutes. But I can improvise a temporary fix. She worked quickly, connecting wires and adjusting components. In 15 minutes, the car was running. It's not a permanent solution, she explained to Charles Edward. It'll last long enough for you to get to the hospital, but you'll need to replace the pump afterward. Thank you so much, the man said, tears in his eyes. You may have saved my daughter's life. As Charles Edward rushed off with the child, Emily noticed everyone in the shop looking at her with admiration. Even Richard seemed impressed. How did you know how to do that? Frank asked. My dad had a Focus just like this. I learned to work on it when I was a teenager. Was your dad a mechanic? Mark asked. No, he was a bus driver, but he knew his way around cars and taught me the basics. Thomas Wilson walked up to her. Emily, that was incredible. You saved that child. I just did what anyone would do. No, you did what an exceptional mechanic would do. That afternoon, Charles Edward returned to the shop with his daughter in his arms. The little girl was fine, smiling and playful. Dr. Emily, the child said, Daddy told me you saved me. Hi, sweetheart. How are you feeling? Much better. Thank you for fixing Daddy's car. Charles Edward handed Emily an envelope. This is for you. You don't have to pay me. It was an emergency. It's not money. It's a business card. I work at City Hall in the public transportation department. We're looking for someone to oversee maintenance for the municipal bus fleet. Really? The salary is 3 times what you probably make here, and you'd be the team lead. Emily was speechless. It was the opportunity she'd always dreamed of. Think it over, Charles Edward said. You have a talent that shouldn't go to waste. After he left, the shop fell silent. Everyone had heard the offer. Richard was furious. The idea of Emily earning 3 times his pay and being in charge of a team made him livid. You're not actually considering this, are you? He asked. Why wouldn't I? Because you have a commitment here. Thomas Wilson gave you a chance when no one else would. Thomas Wilson did give me a chance, that's true, but you did everything you could to make sure I couldn't make the most of it. I never... Richard, enough. Everyone here knows how you treat me. Thomas Wilson was worried. Losing Emily now would be a disaster for the business. Over the past few months, she'd become responsible for more than half the shop's revenue. Emily, let's talk, he said. They went into the office again. What can I do to make you stay? Thomas, it's not about money, it's about respect. You want me to fire Richard? No, I want you to make a decision. Either you support his work or mine, but we can't keep going like this. You know it's complicated. He's my cousin, and I'm your most productive employee. Thomas Wilson fell silent, weighing his options. Give me a week to sort this out. Fine, but this is my last week here if things don't change. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, back to the story. That week, the tension in the shop grew day by day. Richard knew his position was threatened and ramped up his attempts to sabotage Emily Parker's work. On Tuesday, he spilled oil on the floor near her workstation, hoping she'd slip. Emily noticed the trap and cleaned it up without a word. On Wednesday, he tampered with her torque wrench, an essential tool for tightening bolts with the right force. Emily caught the issue before using it and recalibrated it. On Thursday, he crossed the line. He messed with the electrical system of a car Emily was repairing, causing a short circuit that could have been dangerous. This time, Emily couldn't hide her anger. Richard, this has gone too far, she said, confronting him in front of everyone. What are you talking about? You know exactly what. You're playing with fire. You could have caused a serious accident. You're crazy. I didn't touch anything. Of course you did, and this time there's a witness. Frank stepped forward, uneasy. Emily's right, Richard. I saw you messing with her car last night. Frank, you're betraying me over a woman? It's not betrayal, it's honesty. What you're doing is wrong. Mark also spoke up. Richard, man, this can't go on. Emily is a great professional. We should be learning from her, not trying to hurt her. You've all lost your minds, Richard shouted. She's been here 3 years and now you think she's better than me? She doesn't think she's better, said Frank. She is better. The argument was cut short when a special client arrived. It was Anthony Richardson, bringing another car in for maintenance. "Where's Emily?" he asked as soon as he walked in. "Right here, Mr. Richardson. I brought my wife to meet you. She was impressed when I told her about your work." An elegant woman in her 50s approached. "So you're the famous Emily," she said with a smile. "My husband won't stop talking about you." "Pleasure to meet you, ma'am. Helen Richardson, and I have a question for you. Have you ever thought about starting your own business?" Emily was surprised. "What do you mean?" "We have some friends who are always looking for a trustworthy repair shop. If you open your own place, we could refer clients to you. It's an interesting idea, but I don't have the money to open a shop." "What if you had an investor?" Anthony smiled. "Emily, I've been watching your work for months. You have exceptional technical knowledge and admirable professionalism. I'd be willing to invest in your business." "Are you serious?" "Completely serious," said Helen. "In fact, I know the perfect place. A warehouse nearby that's up for rent." Richard listened from a distance, his anger turning to desperation. The idea of Emily opening her own shop, and with Anthony Richardson's investment, was his worst nightmare. Thomas Wilson was also listening, and realized he was about to lose his best employee in a far worse way than he'd imagined. Not only would she leave, but she'd become his competitor. "Anthony, can we talk?" Thomas said, stepping closer to the group. "Of course. Emily is a very valuable employee to me. If you're interested in investing in her talent, how about we discuss a partnership right here?" "What do you mean?" "We could turn this shop into a bigger, more modern business. Emily would be a partner, you would be the investor, and I would keep handling the day-to-day operations." Emily looked surprised at Thomas. It was the first time he had treated her as a valuable asset, rather than just an employee. "That's an interesting proposal," said Anthony. "But we'd need some changes in the shop's structure." "What kind of changes?" "First, Emily would need full autonomy over technical services. Second, we'd need more modern equipment. Third, we'd require a more professional work environment." Everyone knew what that meant. Richard would have to completely change his attitude or be let go. "Anthony, can you give me until the end of the week to think about the proposal?" asked Thomas. "Of course, but don't take too long. Opportunities like this don't come around often." After Anthony and Helen left, the shop fell into a tense silence. Everyone knew everything was about to change. Richard approached Thomas. "Cuz, you can't seriously be considering this proposal." "Why not?" "Because it would mean handing control of the shop to her, and she's just an employee." "Richard, she's the employee bringing in the best clients. She's the one solving the most complex problems. She's the one making our shop grow. But I've worked here for 20 years. And in those 20 years, you've had plenty of chances to stand out. You chose to coast." "Thomas, I'm your cousin. Doesn't that count for anything?" "Of course it does. But it can't be more important than the future of the business." That night, Thomas stayed late at the shop, thinking over everything that had happened. He knew he was at a crossroads. On one side, there was his family loyalty to Richard. On the other, the chance to turn his small shop into a thriving business with Emily and Anthony's help. He remembered when his father had founded the shop over 40 years ago. Old Thomas's dream was to build a respected company, known for quality service. In recent years, the shop had stagnated. The best clients went to dealerships in the city, leaving them with only the simplest jobs. Emily's arrival had changed everything. For the first time in years, the shop was growing, building a reputation, attracting important clients. He picked up the phone and called his wife. "Mary, I need to talk to you about an important decision." "What happened?" "It's about the shop, and about Richard." He told her everything. Richard's sabotage, Emily's talent, Anthony's proposal. "Thomas, you know what the right decision is," said Mary. "You can't let family feelings hurt the business's future. But Richard is my cousin. How do I explain this to the family? You tell them you're saving everyone else's jobs, including Richard's if he knows how to behave. And if he doesn't, then the decision becomes even easier." Thomas hung up with a sense of relief. His wife was right. He'd known the right choice from the start, but needed to hear it from someone he trusted. Friday morning, he arrived at the shop with his decision made. "Everyone, I need to talk to you," he said, gathering all the employees. "Yesterday, Anthony Richardson made a proposal to turn our shop into a bigger, more modern business. I've decided to accept." "What does that mean for us?" asked Mark. "It means we'll invest in new equipment, expand the space, and specialize in luxury and high-performance cars." "And who'll oversee the technical side?" asked Frank. "Emily will be the new technical manager. She'll have full authority over all services." The silence was absolute. Everyone looked at Richard, who was red with anger. "What about me?" he asked. "You can keep working here, but you'll have to adapt to the new rules. That means respecting the hierarchy and working as a team." "Work for her," Richard pointed at Emily. "Work with her, and with everyone else. Thomas, this is humiliating." "Richard, what's humiliating is what you've been doing to Emily for the past 3 years. You're choosing a stranger over family. I'm choosing the future of the company my father built." Richard pulled off his jumpsuit and threw it on the ground. "Then I quit." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." He stormed out of the garage, slamming the door behind him. Everyone stayed silent for a few minutes. "Folks," Thomas said, "I know this was a tough decision, but it was necessary. From now on, we're going to work as a real team." Emily stepped closer to him. "Thomas, thank you for trusting me. I promise I won't let you down." "I know you won't. And I want you to know I've always recognized your talent. I just took too long to find the courage to do what was right. What matters is that you did it." In the following weeks, the garage underwent a complete transformation. Anthony invested in state-of-the-art equipment, the space was expanded and modernized, and Emily implemented new work procedures. Mark and Frank adapted quickly to the changes. They realized working with Emily was an opportunity to learn and grow professionally. The garage began offering specialized services no other shop in the area provided: advanced electronic diagnostics, ECU reprogramming, preventive maintenance for race cars. Within months, the waiting list was full. Cars came from neighboring towns just to be serviced by Emily's team. Margaret was promoted to office manager, and 2 more employees were hired to assist her. "Emily," Thomas said one day, "you've turned this garage into something I never thought possible." "We did it together, Thomas. This was a team effort." "That's true, but you were the inspiration behind it all." 6 months after Richard left, he showed up at the garage again. He looked thinner, exhausted. "Thomas, can I talk to you?" "Of course, Richard. Come in." They went into the office, which was now much larger and more organized. "How have you been?" "Not great, to be honest. I couldn't get hired at any shop in the area." "Why?" "Because word got around that I sabotaged a co-worker. No one wants to hire someone they can't trust." Thomas stayed silent. "I was wrong, cousin. Really wrong." "Go on." "Emily really is a better mechanic than me. And instead of trying to learn from her, I tried to tear her down out of pure pride." "What do you want now?" "A second chance. Not as head mechanic, not as a manager, just as an employee. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to be part of a real team." "Richard, this decision isn't just mine. If you come back, you'll be working under Emily's supervision." "Are you okay with that?" "I am." "Then I'll talk to her." Thomas called Emily into the office and explained the situation. "What do you think?" "Thomas, I don't hold grudges. If he's truly changed and is willing to work as part of the team, I have no problem with it." "You're sure?" "I am. But he'll have to prove he's changed through actions, not just words." "Deal." Richard returned to work at the garage, but now in a completely different position. He was respectful to everyone, especially Emily, and showed a genuine desire to learn. "Emily," he said a few weeks later, "I want to apologize, not just for what I did, but for all the time I wasted trying to hurt you instead of learning from you." "Thank you, Richard. That means a lot to me." "Can you teach me that electronic diagnostic technique?" "Of course. We can start tomorrow." A year after the big transformation, the repair shop received a special visit. It was Charles Edward, the father of the girl Emily had helped. "Emily, how are you?" "Charles Edward, so good to see you. How's your daughter?" "Great, growing and healthy. and it's because of her that I'm here." "How so?" "She won't stop talking about Dr. Emily who saved her life. She says when she grows up she wants to be a mechanic just like you." "Really? Really? And I came here to ask you something. Would you be willing to give her some lessons on Saturdays? She's 7 now and very curious about cars." "Of course I will. It would be my pleasure. And there's one more thing. Remember that offer I made for you to work for the city?" "I do." "Well, we need a technical consultant to evaluate the repair shops that service the city. It's part-time work you can do on weekends. Interested?" "Very interested." In the following months, Emily began teaching Charles Edward's daughter and other kids in the neighborhood. She created a small automotive education program to spark young people's interest in the profession. On Saturdays, her shop turned into a classroom where girls and boys learned the basics of mechanics. "Listen up," she'd tell the kids. "Working on cars isn't a man's thing or a woman's thing. It's for anyone who loves learning and solving problems." News of the social project reached the local papers. Emily was interviewed by the regional TV station, and her story became an example of perseverance and determination. "What's your advice for other women who want to get into mechanics?" asked the reporter. "Study hard, never give up, and prove your skills through your work. Prejudice exists, but it disappears when you show you know what you're doing. And for the men in the field, give women a chance. We can learn from each other. Skill has no gender." The interview aired on a Thursday night. The next day, Emily received dozens of messages from women across the country sharing their own experiences and asking for advice. "Thomas," she said, "I think our project could grow far beyond the shop. What do you have in mind? What if we created vocational courses for women? Partnerships with technical schools, companies, government agencies? That's a fantastic idea. Let's talk to Anthony about it." Anthony was excited by the proposal and offered funding to expand the project. Within 2 years, the shop had become a hub for women's professional training in the automotive field. Women came from various cities to take the courses. Emily was invited to speak at universities, automotive trade shows, and business events. "Everyone," she said during a talk at the local university, "my story isn't just about mechanics. It's about not accepting limits others try to place on you. It's about believing in your own potential even when no one else does." In the audience, a young student raised her hand. "Emily, what would you say to someone facing prejudice at work?" "I'd say 3 things. First, document everything. Second, never bow to injustice. Third, let your work speak for you. Skill is the best answer to prejudice. What if they can't take it anymore? Then it's time to seek new horizons. But never give up on your dream because of small-minded people." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 3 years after that first day when she fixed Anthony's Cadillac, Emily Parker was in her office organizing plans for the new training center when she received an unexpected visitor. It was a young woman around 22 years old, with the same determined look Emily had when she first started at the shop. "Excuse me, are you Emily Parker?" "Yes, I am. How can I help you?" "My name is Rachel Oliver. I graduated as a mechanic 6 months ago, and I can't find a job anywhere." "Why not?" "Because I'm a woman. Every place I apply says they prefer hiring men." Emily smiled, remembering her own journey. "Sit down. Let's talk." She spent an hour talking with Rachel, understanding her struggles and dreams. "Rachel, would you like to work here?" "Really? You'd give me a chance?" "Of course. But I'll tell you something. Here, you'll work hard, study a lot, and prove every day that you deserve to be here." "I accept." "Great. You start Monday." In the following months, Emily trained Rachel personally, passing on not just technical knowledge, but also the confidence needed to face the challenges of the profession. "Emily," Rachel said one day, "how do you stay so strong? I never see you discouraged." "Rachel, I do get discouraged, but I've learned that discouragement is temporary. What matters is not letting it paralyze you. And when people doubt you, I let my work speak for me. And when that's not enough, I seek out people who value skill over prejudice. Like Thomas Wilson? No. Thomas Wilson took 3 years to value me. Like Anthony, who saw my potential from day one. Does that mean we should give up on those who don't believe in us? It means we should invest our energy in those who give us real opportunities to grow. One day, a case arrived at the shop that would challenge both Emily and her entire team. It was a race car, a prototype that would be used in an international competition. The problem was so complex that even the manufacturer's engineering team couldn't solve it. "Emily," said the race team's leader, "this car is worth $5 million. If we don't fix the problem by next week, we lose our chance to compete." "What exactly is the issue?" "The engine loses power at high RPMs. We've checked everything. Injection, ignition, turbo, intercooler. Everything's perfect, but the problem persists." Emily analyzed the engine for hours. It was an impressive piece of engineering, with technologies she'd never seen before. "Team," she said, "this is a challenge that will demand everything we know and then some." Mark, Frank, Richard and Rachel gathered around the car. "Where do we start?" Rachel asked. "Let's divide the engine into systems, and each of us will analyze one part," Emily said. They worked for 3 intense days. Every system was meticulously checked, every component tested individually. "Boss," Frank said on the 3rd day, "I found something odd in the exhaust system." "What is it?" "There's a valve here that's operating out of sync. It's a difference of microseconds, almost imperceptible." "But could that cause power loss?" "At high RPMs, yes. The engine would be losing exhaust gases at the wrong moment." Emily examined Frank's discovery. It was an extremely subtle issue, detectable only with very precise equipment. "That could be it. But how do we fix it?" "We need to reprogram the ECU," Rachel said, "but it's a system I've never worked with." "Neither have I," Emily admitted. "But we'll learn." They spent the night studying technical manuals and watching online training videos. By morning, they were ready to attempt the reprogramming. "If we make a mistake, we could damage the entire engine," said Mark. "That's why we'll back everything up before starting," replied Emily Parker. The reprogramming took 6 hours. It was a job of extreme precision, where every parameter had to be adjusted in tenths of milliseconds. "Done," said Emily at 4 in the afternoon. "Let's test it." The engine was started and gradually revved to high speeds. This time there was no loss of power. "We did it!" shouted Rachel Oliver. "Wait," said Emily. "Let's run a few more tests to be sure." For 2 hours they tested the engine under every possible condition. Everything worked perfectly. The race team's boss arrived late in the afternoon to pick up the car. "Did you fix it?" "We did," Emily said with a smile. They gave a demonstration, showing the engine running at full power without any issues. "This is incredible," said the engineer. "Our technicians in Germany couldn't figure out this problem." "It was a team effort," Emily replied. "Everyone here contributed to the solution." "How much do I owe you?" $15,000. $15,000 for a job that saved an international competition? I'll pay double." "That's not necessary. We agreed on 15. "Then take this as a bonus for excellence." He handed over an envelope with another $15,000. "And there's one more thing. We want to hire you as the team's technical partners. It would be an annual contract for $200,000. The team fell silent, processing the offer. "Can I discuss it with my team and give you an answer tomorrow?" "Of course." After he left, everyone celebrated. It was the highest professional recognition the shop had ever received. "Emily," said Thomas Wilson, "you've turned this shop from a small family business into an international benchmark." "We did, Thomas. This was only possible because we built a real team." "That's true, and now we have to decide if we're ready for this next step." "Do you think we are?" Emily asked the team. "I think so," said Frank. "We've already proven we can solve problems even the best engineers in the world couldn't." "I agree," said Mark. "It's our chance to show our work to the whole world." "What about you, Richard?" "Emily, 3 years ago I tried to destroy you because I was afraid you were better than me. Today I know you're not just better. You're one of the best mechanics I've ever met. If you think we should accept, I support it." "And you, Rachel?" "Emily, you gave me a chance when no one else would. Now it's my turn to help build something bigger. Then it's decided. We'll accept the offer. The next day, they signed the partnership contract with the race team. It was the beginning of a new chapter in all their lives. 3 months later, Emily was at a racetrack in Europe watching the first race of the season. The car they had repaired was in pole position. "How do you feel?" asked an international reporter. "Proud. Not just of myself, but of my whole team. 4 years ago, I was just a mechanic no one took seriously. Today, we're technical partners for one of the best race teams in the world." What was the secret to your success? Never giving up, always learning, and always believing skill matters more than prejudice. The race began. The car they had worked on took the lead and stayed there the entire time. When the checkered flag waved, Emily had tears in her eyes, not of sadness but of joy and pride. Her phone rang. It was a video call from the shop. The whole team was gathered watching the race. "Emily, did you see? We won!" Rachel shouted. "We won," Emily corrected. "All of us." "When are you coming back?" asked Thomas Wilson. "Next week, and I'll have some news." "What kind of news?" "The team wants us to set up a specialized shop here in Europe too, and they want me to be the head technical manager." "Really?" "Really, but I'll only accept if you all agree to come with me." "All of us?" "All of you. We're a team. It doesn't make sense to separate from you now." The silence on the other end was broken by cheers of celebration. "Of course we're in," said Frank. "It's going to be quite the adventure," said Mark. "I've always wanted to see Europe," said Rachel. "What about me?" asked Richard, joking. "You'd really take me along after everything I did? Especially after everything you've learned, Richard." 2 years later, Emily was in her office at the new shop in Detroit, Germany, when she got a call from America. "Emily, it's Charles Edward. Remember me?" "Of course. How are you? And your daughter?" "We're doing great. My daughter is 12 now and still crazy about cars. She won't stop saying she wants to be a mechanic like you." "That's so good to hear. Actually, I'm calling for another reason. Did you see the news from America today?" "No, why?" "The federal government passed a law requiring all auto repair shops to have at least 30% female employees." "Seriously?" "Seriously. And guess what their reasoning was? They cited your example. They said you proved women can be just as skilled as men in the automotive field." Emily was moved. She never imagined her story could influence public policy. "That's amazing, Charles Edward." "And there's more. They want to create a national training program for female mechanics, and they want you to be the general coordinator." "But I'm living in Germany now." "It would be consulting work. You could develop the curriculum and train the instructors. You wouldn't have to move back." Emily thought about the offer. It was a chance to impact thousands of women across America. "Charles Edward, I need to talk to my team here. Can I give you an answer next week?" "Of course, but I hope it's a yes. America needs you." That night, Emily gathered her whole team for dinner. They had become not just co-workers, but family. "Everyone, I got a very special offer today," she said, explaining the government's program. "And you want to accept?" asked Rachel. "I do, but I don't want to do it alone." "What do you mean?" "I want you all to be my partners in this too. Each of you has unique knowledge and experience that can help others." "But how would that work?" asked Thomas. "We could start a consulting firm. We develop training programs here and apply them in both America and Europe." "Emily," said Richard, "you always think big." "It's because I've learned that when you believe in your potential, limits disappear." "Then let's do it," said Mark. "Let's help others achieve their dreams like you helped us. And let's show that prejudice can be overcome with hard work, dedication, and unity," added Frank. 6 months later, the Women in Engines program launched across America. Within just 1 year, over 5,000 women were trained and found jobs in the automotive industry. Emily was invited to speak at the UN about gender equality in the workforce. Her story became a global example of overcoming barriers and turning adversity into opportunity. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said in her UN speech, "my journey began in a small shop where I was humiliated every day. Today I stand here speaking to representatives from around the world about the importance of equal opportunities for all. Prejudice exists, that's true, But he doesn't have the power to define our future. We define our own future through our choices, our work, and our persistence. When a woman carves out space in a traditionally male-dominated field, she isn't just fulfilling her own dream. She's paving the way for other women. She's proving that competence has no gender. So my advice to all the women watching is, believe in your potential, study hard, work tirelessly, and never ever give up on your dreams because of someone else's prejudice. And to the men listening, give women a chance. You'll discover we can learn so much from each other. Diversity doesn't weaken a team, it strengthens it. The speech was met with a standing ovation, lasting over 5 minutes. Tears streamed down Emily's face, but they were tears of joy. After the talk, a young woman approached her. "Emily, my name is Amy. I'm from America, and I'm studying mechanical engineering here in Boston." "That's wonderful, Amy. How can I help you?" "I wanted to thank you. Your story inspired me not to give up when professors said engineering wasn't for women." "And how are you doing now?" "I'm at the top of my class." "Congratulations. You're proof that when we dedicate ourselves, we can overcome any obstacle." "Emily, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you afraid that because you've become so famous, people will forget you're a real mechanic?" Emily smiled. "Amy, I'll never forget where I came from. And whenever I can, I go back to the shop to get my hands dirty with grease. That's what makes me happy." "What's your next project?" "We're developing a program to teach basic mechanics to kids in public schools. We want to spark passions early, with no gender distinctions." "Can I help?" "Absolutely. We're always looking for volunteers." 5 years after leaving America, Emily decided to return for a special visit. The opening of the first all-women automotive technical school in North America. The school was built where an abandoned repair shop once stood, right near Progress Auto Repair, which was still running under Thomas Wilson's supervision. "Emily!" Margaret shouted when she saw her arrive. "I've missed you." "Margaret, how are you?" "Great, I'm the school's administrative director now. Who would have thought, huh?" "You deserve it. You've always been so capable." The inauguration ceremony was attended by officials, business leaders, and hundreds of young women eager to enroll in the courses. "Emily," the mayor said during the ceremony, "this school exists because you proved women can be excellent mechanics. Do you have a message for the future students?" "I do," Emily said, stepping up to the microphone. "Ladies, you're entering a profession that will challenge you every day. It won't be easy, but it will be rewarding. Will you face prejudice? Probably. But remember, prejudice is the problem of those who hold it, not yours. Your job is to study, train, and prove your competence. When I started in mechanics almost 10 years ago, I was the only woman in the shop. Today, there are thousands of women working in the automotive industry across America and the world. That happened because every one of us who entered this field opened a door for the next. Now it's your turn to open doors for those who come after. Study hard, work tirelessly, be honest and skilled, and most of all, never give up on your dreams." After the ceremony, Emily visited her old shop. It was unrecognizable, modern, spacious, with state-of-the-art equipment. "Look who's here," Frank called out. He had returned to America to take over as the shop's technical manager. "Frank, I've missed you." "How's life in Europe?" "Wonderful. But sometimes I miss this place. And the others? Mark is in France, Rachel in Italy, and Richard in Spain. All of them as heads of their own teams. And Thomas Wilson? Retired, but he comes here every day to take a look. You know how it is, right?" They laughed. Thomas had always been passionate about the shop. "Emily," a familiar voice called. She turned and saw Richard walking into the shop. "Richard, what are you doing here?" "I came for the school's opening and to see you." "I thought you were in Spain." "I am, but I got an offer to return to America and open a branch of our consulting firm here." "Really?" "Really. And I wanted to know if you'd be willing to be my partner." "Richard, are you sure? After everything that happened?" "Emily, you taught me that past mistakes can be turned into future successes. I want to use my experience to help other men understand that working with competent women is an opportunity, not a threat." "That's an interesting proposal. Think it over. It'd be good to have you back in America." That night, Emily had dinner with her family. Her parents, now older, were proud of their daughter but missed her. "Sweetheart," her mother said, "you've conquered the whole world, but our home feels empty without you." "Mom, you know I love you, but I had to follow my dreams." "And we always supported you," her father said. "But now that you've proven everything you needed to, don't you want to come home?" "Actually, Dad, I've been thinking about it." "Really? Really? I'm considering accepting Richard's offer and coming back for good." "That would be wonderful," her mother said, emotional. "But I have one condition." "What is it?" "I want you both to be my partners too. I want to create a family business that honors everything you taught me about hard work and honesty." 3 months later, Emily was back in America for good. The company Parker & Associates Automotive Consulting was launched in a ceremony attended by representatives from automakers around the world. The firm offered technical consulting, professional training, and inclusion project development in the automotive field. "Emily," a journalist asked during the press conference, "looking back, would you change anything about your journey?" "I wouldn't change a thing. Every challenge I faced taught me something important. Every humiliation made me stronger. Every achievement gave me more responsibility." "And what's your message for young women who want to follow in your footsteps?" "That they shouldn't follow my footsteps. They should create their own paths. I opened some doors, but there are many more to be opened. And for employers who still hesitate to hire women in technical roles, they're missing out on incredible talent because of outdated biases. Competence doesn't choose a gender." A year later, Parker & Associates had become the largest automotive consulting firm in North America. Emily had hired over 50 professionals, 70% of them women. "Boss," Rachel said. She had returned from Italy to be the company's technical director. "We've received a very special invitation." "What is it?" "NASCAR wants you to be their official technical consultant for the championship. You'd be the first woman in that role. Do you think I should accept?" "I think you should follow your heart. My heart tells me I've already achieved all my dreams. Now, I want to help others achieve theirs." "So you'll decline?" "No, I'll accept, but on one condition. I want to bring a team of female mechanics to work with me. NASCAR has never had female mechanics on their teams. Then it's about time they did." End of story. And now, dear listener, tell us, what did you think of Emily's journey? Do you know any woman who has gone through similar situations? Leave your comment with heartfelt words about how this story touched you. Do you think Emily's perseverance was inspiring? We'd love to read your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories like this one.